Very good morning to you again. Today we are going to have another session on podcast today with Illukkumbura. Today we are going to talk about business strategy of commercial bank PSC. To start with today's podcast, we will first see what we are going to cover exactly today. So we will first see some background information about the company that we are going to talk about on podcast, and then we will see commercial bank vision, mission, and their strategic direction, how it has been changed from other banks or other companies in Sri Lanka. Then we will take a look into their internal and external requirement, covering their resources, capabilities, and competitiveness. And also, we will take a look into their competitive strategies as well. Also, the execution of corporate strategy and diversification, and also impact from organization culture to its business strategy, and finally on financial performance. Okay, so first start with Commercial Bank PLC. We are going to take a little bit deeper look into its business strategy. So the company has been incorporated in 1920, so it's more than 100 years old company in Sri Lanka. It has its operations in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Maldives as well. In number wise, it is a 2.8 trillion rupee asset holding company with a profit after tax for 2024 around 54 billion rupees, and also it has customer deposits around 2.2 trillion LKR, and most importantly with a return on equity with 22%, which is a very healthy percentage for a bank in Sri Lanka. Also, it has won Sri Lanka's best bank in Sri Lanka for 22 times. This was offered by Global Finance magazine, and also it has been recognized as strongest bank in Sri Lanka by TAB Global 1000 Index. In addition to that, it has 38 billion green finance portfolio with it, and also it has a 1.5 million digital banking users in Sri Lanka. Not only that, it has 7 subsidiaries, and altogether there are around 5,000 employees in bank related to Sri Lanka operations. Okay, let's now take a look into company's vision, mission, and strategic direction. So, if you talk about vision, they are most keen on becoming the most technologically advanced and innovative and customer friendly financial service providers. So, this is exactly what we want to see from a personal or a private bank in Sri Lanka. And also, its mission, it has defined its pillars of being reliable, innovative, and customer centric, and also continuous productivity improvement is something that they are really keen on. And most importantly, if you take a look at their strategic direction, they are one of three large private banks in Sri Lanka. The other two large private banks are Sampath Bank and HNB, National Bank PLC. And with that, they are working on a stable and conservative business approach as their strategic direction. Not only that, their digital first approach is related to their business strategy very thoroughly. It has 1.5 million local users, and also sustainability is something that they are very keen. This is why they have defined green and blue color based theme into their company brand. They are the first carbon neutral bank in Sri Lanka, and also, if we take a look at their contribution to Sri Lankan economy, they are the largest lender to SME sector for the last 4 years. Okay, now we are going to take a look into their internal and external environment. First, we will start with external environment. So I have done a little bit of analysis by referring to Porter's 5 Hours model. So if I summarize it for you, the threats from substitute to commercial bank is very low. This is because in Sri Lanka, there are very less products that can be counted as substitute to banking financial services, which means that in Sri Lanka, there are no many non-banking financial services. But if you take a country like China, you have money wallets, you have currency wallets, you have cryptocurrency wallets. These non-banking services very common in these countries. But in Sri Lanka, with the regulatory and the technological barriers that we have, these are not common. So the threat from substitute is not that much. But the impact or the bargaining power of customers is very high. Even for you, even for me, I would probably go with the bank which offer me the lowest loan rates and also the highest interest rate for savings accounts and also for fixed deposit. The bargaining power of customers is very high. And if we take the bargaining power of suppliers, it is low to moderate. I would probably say it's moderate. This is because for a bank, there are not many suppliers in their core business level. For commercial bank, for any other bank, the IT services are the most critical or the uh, basic supplier for a bank, but in commercial case, they have their own subsidy who's offering ICT services for commercial. So it is backward integrated. This is why we can say that their risk is moderate to low. And if you take the threat from new entrants, you probably would agree with me that in Sri Lanka, it is not very easy for a company to start doing banking business because of the capital and regulatory requirements that we have in Sri Lanka. So the threat from new entrants is very low. If we take a look into the internal environment and would go around resources, capabilities, and competitiveness by referring to WRIN format, which is uh, valuable, rare, inimitable, and non-substitutable. Commercial Bank has a branch network of 292, which is valuable, and also they have a strong IT infrastructure with the digital banking, CRMs, and ATMs, and many services, which is again valuable. And also they have a financial capital of 2.8 trillion rupees in assets. Not only that, they have solar-powered branches around 90 locations almost, which is rare for a company, for a banking company in Sri Lanka. And also, they have proprietary digital platforms such as Commercial Bank Digital and Leap. They are very strong platforms in terms of digital banking. So they are non-substitutable. And also, if you take a look at their sustainable leadership, the first company or the bank to be carbon neutral in Sri Lanka is a rare and inimitable factor. And also, they have a very strong risk management and governance system, which make their competitiveness very strong. Also, let's take a look into their competitive strategies. So, if we take the business strategy of any company in very common level, we can identify the four different business strategies. Under low cost model, we can see two different strategies. Under differentiation, we can see two different strategies. So, it is very obvious that commercial bank is not in the low cost strategy, because if you take their lending rates, it is not the lowest in the market. And also, if you take their interest rate for saving accounts and fixed deposits, again, they are not the highest. So they are not in the low cost segment. They are into differentiation. So under differentiation, what exact category, if it is focused or it is a differentiation, broad differentiation? For that, but I can clearly say that they are not into focused differentiation, because they are offering their services to general public. They are offering their services categorized for SME sector and also for women entrepreneurs. So they are not limited to a niche market. They are commonly providing their services. So we can say they are into broad differentiation. So if you ask me again, what exactly they are putting their services into this broad differentiation, that is their digital leadership. They have 1.5 million digital banking users. This number is very considerable compared to the population in Sri Lanka, which has digital financial literacy. And also their sustainable leadership. They are the first carbon neutral bank in Sri Lanka. And also they are SME focused. Commercial Bank PLC is the largest lender to SME sector for the last 4 years. So this is something very important to highlight. And also their regional expansion to Southeast Asia, especially in Bangladesh, Maldives, and Myanmar, is growing. And also last but not least, their customer experience. This is something I would like to take several seconds and highlight. So if you take a call to commercial bank for some credit card issue or for a digital banking issue, even after 10 p.m. for a working day, even for a weekend, there's a very high chance that your call get correctly connected to a customer service representative within 30 seconds of time. So you may have probably had this good experience with commercial banks. So it is one of the best things to have among the banks in Sri Lanka. And let's now move to the strategy execution and the diversification. First, we will relate to the diversification. It is very obvious that bank should be in the related diversification. You can imagine what will happen if companies start banking business or something unrelated to banking business. It would probably damage their brand name. This is why they are into related diversification. Under that, they have a finance arm, which is a good example for their horizontal integration or the horizontal diversification. And their CBC tech solution, which provides their IT infrastructure services. This can be identified under backward integration. And also the commercial insurance brokers and their operations, their back-end operations, Maldives and Myanmar, can be identified under horizontal diversification or horizontal integration. And also they have an equity investment arm, comes under forward integration. They have green bond services and digital banking services, which can be identified under backward integration. Okay, now let's take a look into three pillars of strategy execution part. The three pillars that you see are the most critical pillars of the strategy execution. So under staffing, they have a succession plan for key managerial positions, including CEO and corporate management. And also, they have a very standard training and upskilling program. Under resource and organization capabilities, they have robust risk management infrastructure with SOPs and risk dashboard, and organization structure with clearly defined work responsibilities, reporting relationships, strategic business units are very clearly mentioned. Okay, now let's take a look into the impact of culture and leadership to companies' business strategy. So they are very keen on having a good integrity and ethical conduct. This is why they have conducted 87 workshops and two e-learning sessions in 2024. And they have defined 6 pillars under their core values that they are really keen on practicing. And also their inclusiveness and performance-oriented culture is something to highlight. The best example is that they have 14 women in their senior role categories, and also the leadership planning. So they have a very strong talent pipeline maintained in the company. So they know that who to be appointed to next open vacancy in the company before it get opened. And finally, we will take a look into the financial performance for the last 5 years. So what you can see is the revenue, net profit, return on equity, earning per share, total deposits, total assets, and total capital ratio. So total revenue has been recorded as 267 billion rupees in 2024, which is more than 100 billion increment compared to 2022. And for 2024, the net profit is recorded as 54 billion, again a more than 30 billion rupee increment compared to the value in 2020. And return on equity is in 2024 is recorded as 22%. This is something to be highlighted because it has been somewhere around 14% or 12% for the last 4 years, but for 2024 the value is considerable. The earning per share has been doubled. It has been more than doubled because it has been 15 in 2020 and has recorded as 37 in 2024. And the total deposits stand at 22 trillion rupees, more than 1 trillion increment compared to 2020, and total assets around 2.8 trillion, again more than 1 trillion increment for 2020 values. And the total capital ratio stands at 18%. It has been somewhat average and simply or very quite increment that we can see in the percentage value. Again, this is healthy for a company in banking business in Sri Lanka. And if we compare these values to two other large private banks, the reason that I have taken the two other large private banks is that it doesn't make to compare this with public banks because the regulatory supports from the government for public banks are very different compared to private banks. And also in the private bank sector, it doesn't make to compare commercial bank with small or medium-sized bank. This is why I have taken HNB and Sampath, the other two largest bank, to compare. So if you see the commercial bank revenue and net profit is not the best. HNB scores in those two aspects, but if you take the return on equity and PE ratio, commercial bank get highlighted as the best um, company to have these metrics. And the total capital ratio, Sampath Bank scores the highest, but it doesn't make sense that the commercial bank is the best by looking only at the total capital ratio because all three banks increases their total capital ratio requirement. So if it exceeds the minimum requirement, this means that it is more than enough. So if you ask me finally, what company should I put my money in stock market in terms of banking investment, I would probably say it's commercial bank because it has the best return on equity and PE ratio. The PE ratio gives me the indication that it is the most attractive price in the stock market for an open investor like me to buy. Okay, so with this, our podcast today concludes, and I hope that you were able to get something very valuable on commercial bank with another interesting topic. We will meet on next week again. Until that, thank you for hearing me out and have a good week ahead.